Thank you for joining us for our monthly webinar series from Local Market Monitor, where we take a closer look at this month's National Economic Outlook, which was written by Local Market Monitor's president, Ingo Windsor. For those of you that don't know Ingo, he has been analyzing real estate markets for over 30 years and was a graduate of MIT and Boston University. He's not your typical economist and has a knack for taking complex data, extracting what is important, and providing unique insights and tangible guidance on real estate markets. So with that, I bring you Ingo and his insights on the economy.
Thanks very much, Carolyn. Our goal every month is to look at the latest economic data and see what they mean for real estate markets. Much of our focus is on jobs because jobs create demand for housing. This month, with more and more people vaccinated and more states allowing more businesses to open, it's a good time to start thinking about the fallout from the pandemic, what's going well and what's not, how the economy is likely to be different, and how that affects real estate investments. But first, a word of caution. We may act as though the pandemic is over, but it's not. If large numbers of people refuse vaccination or deadlier variants of the virus circulate more broadly, if public health measures are not followed, a resurgence of the pandemic could easily dampen the recovery and produce an economy that just sputters along. I don't think that will happen. I think more people will, in fact, be vaccinated. I think the economy will follow the trajectory of the last few quarters, which means an economy that grows very well during 2021 and next year. Here we see the annual change of gross domestic product adjusted for inflation through the first quarter of this year. We're almost back to zero, and growth for the full year should be in positive territory. But don't count the pandemic out. Good growth in the next couple of quarters could easily give way to anemic gains further down the line if our surge of optimism is unfounded. Here's my favorite way of looking at the economy, the growth of jobs. Here we see that in the last few months, there already was improvement even before there was much vaccination. It's easy to imagine that the data from April and May will be even better. A closer look at the different sectors of the economy supports this view, but also shows up some trouble spots. Business services is the largest sector of the economy. It includes lawyers, accountants, temp services, cleaning services, and anything else every business needs. It's crucial to any recovery, and the good news is that almost all the jobs lost during the pandemic will soon be regained. Real recovery won't happen until growth in this sector gets back to 3% or so, probably not until next year. Construction is a much smaller sector, but here too things are looking up. And they're looking up in computer systems design, my private recession indicator. Because systems engineers are very expensive, companies only hire them if they really need them. And now, for the first time since the pandemic started, companies are hiring them again. But now we get to the more troubling parts of the economy. The healthcare sector is as large as business services, and here the news isn't as good. Despite the immense work done during the pandemic, many of the lost jobs in this sector have not returned. That's partly because many of those jobs are in doctors' offices, which during the pandemic didn't have many customers. As people get vaccinated, they'll go back for annual physicals and regular care, so that part of the healthcare sector will do better. But hospitals will not bring back many of the lost jobs because they can't afford to. They lost a lot of money during the pandemic and will make up for it by cutting their biggest cost, which is people. Local governments are in much the same situation. They have to balance their budget, and their costs mainly are people. Teachers, town clerks, bus drivers, police, firefighters, but their revenues can't easily rebound. So I foresee permanent job losses in this sector. We'll quickly go through the remaining sectors where not much is happening. Things will get better in the restaurant sector over the next few months, but here also I foresee permanent job losses as restaurants retool their operations. Indoor dining will still be avoided by a lot of people. And yes, more jobs will return in retail, but online shopping will accelerate anyway. Finally, not much is going on in finance, the sector least affected by the pandemic because it's already the most automated. So getting back to our questions at the beginning, how is the economy likely to be different and what does that mean for investors? The business services sector will be an indicator for which markets have strong growth going forward. Markets like San Antonio, Birmingham, and Ogden, Utah, where business services have quickly recovered, will be strong candidates for real estate investors. On the other hand, Boston, Hartford, and Philadelphia, where the large healthcare sector is doing poorly, are likely to have lower growth that will require a more complicated investment strategy. Next month, we'll have a closer look at individual markets. We're just starting to find out where the chips will fall, and it's not a question of good markets and bad markets, but what kind of investment strategy works best in each one. To finish, let me plug our investors' meta-analysis, which shows how local economic conditions affect investments in real estate down to the zip code level. It's available for any of 200 markets and is easy to use as 1, 2, 3. Thanks very much for following along. This is our National Economic Outlook. I'm Ingo Windsor.